What's going on, guys? Back again with another quarantine live stream. This time I figured, why not show the rest of the X-Men collection? Because I didn't even get time to show the entire collection last time. So I still have like another short box and a half right here. Yeah, I figured why not go ahead and show them. Yeah, we had a chance to talk about X-Men on Modern Men on Monday. Definitely check that out over on the Comic Court channel. I have to put that link down below for you guys to click on. We got a chance to read House and Powers of X, and it was a lot of fun. And then don't forget to vote on the next community tab on Comic Core to determine what we read next week. Right now, Spider-Man Life Story is winning. Okay, we got someone in the chat already. We got the Mastodon. What's going on, Donnie? He says, let's get this party started right. And get started quickly. So, yeah, I tried to get started before 2 o'clock for you, Donnie. He says, interesting news today in the world of comics and nerdom. Yeah, I think they're trying to figure out a way to get stuff worked around Diamond, maybe, something like that. But, yeah, whatever gets comics in the hands of the people and supports those local shops out there, anything like that would be great. Scott Evans is coming at us from Michigan. What is going on, Scott Evans? Nice to see you in the chat today. We got J Hood Creative. Big congratulations to him on his Comic Gories victory. He killed it the other day. Very awesome job, J Hood. Nice to see you in the chat. And we got Chris Barrett hopping over from the Comic Core morning show. So what's going on, Chris? Thanks for joining. Yeah, Scott Evans. Hey, I picked God Country, man. I tried, so might have to read it on my own anyway again. I think it's Donnie Cates' best story. So if you guys want to see us read God Country on Modern Men, go over to the Comic Core Community tab and put in your vote. And Fish Tropic, yeah, I kind of just gave up trying to work around that whole thing with the Streamyards and the YouTube communication. It is what it is. People want to watch, they'll find me. If not, it is what it is. So big thanks for joining me and sharing it out, though, man. My first subscriber ever. He's always hooking me up with the share. So huge, big thanks to Fish Tropic for that. Huge support of the channel right there. Javid says, I am the champ for now, LOL. He won with a 9.8 book that wasn't slabbed. So very impressive victory there, J Hood. And then it's funny because I know you had like that Hot Mamas category. I'm like, show Saga 1, man, show Saga 1. And then he didn't. And then he showed Saga 1 later and still won. So big shout out to him. That was awesome. We still got the Mastodon. We got Patrick Seacrest Kelly. What is going on, Patrick Kelly? Nice to see you in the chat. And then Donnie says, God Country is my pick as well. Love that story. And then J Hood says, you have to visit Discovery Bay stream to see who is going live. Yeah, that's pretty much JB's been holding down the whole getting the live stream support out there. So big shout out to JB from Discovery Bay. Without further ado, let's show some X-Men books. I know, last time on those first 2 boxes, which I still have sitting there because I need to sort in those books back there for your viewing enjoyment. But it was more or less like the older books. I'm slowly just collecting and obtaining, but I haven't really read the runs yet. There's going to be a few instances like that in these boxes, but these are more the stories I've read over the decades and have actually collected since I was a kid. So hopefully I'll have a few more stories to actually talk and tell you guys than just showing the book and being like, yeah, I got this at this time, blah, 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 and then going on and being redundant from there. So hopefully I can share a little bit more of my memories and nostalgic stuff from when I originally obtained these. But first we'll go into X-Men 256. I believe the first time she was the most current version of Psylocke. So got that at now was that price? This book's $1 million. They're charging I paid $6 for that, but it was one of those ones. I don't see that one too often in the wild. Gotta love you some Jim Lee. Every time I see Jim Lee X-Men, I end up buying multiple copies of it. But luckily I only paid $2 for this particular copy. So happy with that. Like I said, I'm slowly amassing like X-Men 94 through basically 300s where I kind of just drew the line. I could keep collecting these all day, but like I said, one day I really want to sit down and read this whole run 94 to 300 start to finish. But yeah, cool cover there from Jim Lee. Like I said, these are the reasons I had to make my list, because every time I see Jim Lee's name on the pre-90s X-Men or like pre-1991 X-Men, I have to buy it every time. Jay Hood put it perfectly. Chet, he says, Jim Lee X-Men, so great and affordable. Yeah, absolutely. You can still, if you dig deep enough, you can still get these books for $1, $2, what have you, just like this one. Got recently for $1. So yeah, don't overpay for these guys. If you're looking to get, I know a lot of people are going for this same run, but a lot of them can still be obtained easily for $1, $2. So definitely don't go out paying multiple big bucks for. Here's 267, second appearance at Gambit. I think I highlighted it last time, but my 266 is right up there. Showed it off at the end of last time's video. Now here's one. This is probably like one of my top favorite covers Jim Lee has ever done, period. X-Men 268. Got that one actually signed by Chris Claremont when I got all the other stuff signed. But, man, just get a load of that cover. I don't know. I mean, you got the Batman 608 second print cover. I'm just trying to think of other iconic Jim Lee covers. This Gen 13 work I really like, to be honest. But for me, this might be my favorite Jim Lee cover ever, just with Cap, Black Widow, and Wolverine. What else do you need on there? So, amazing cover, one of my all-time favorites. There's 269, newsstand. Fish Tropic says, I found 2 comics I had when I was a kid the other night. Yeah, there's nothing like that, even though, sometimes the comics don't have to be worth like $20, $100. I mean, if you had them as a kid, read and enjoyed them, you got those priceless memories right there. So, absolutely. And there's 274. So, I have 1 or 2 holes to still fill in the later part of this collection. I think basically toward this point, I've only got maybe like 3 or 4 more holes to fill in this collection. But I think, like I said in the last video, I think if I get 94, 101, and a couple of those early other 100s, the rest of the run will probably be dollar books for me at this point. So, gotta love Guido. Then 279. Wow, look at the terrible cut on that. You can actually see the back cover protruding onto the front side of it. So, one thing I've kind of noticed while collecting these is the cuts on some of these late 80s, early 90s Marvel books are really weird. Like, I think it was this next one. And actually, I think I gave away 1 copy of this already. But there were some weird cut. Like, it's kind of hard to display on camera. But I'll try to, like, get it so, like, the top matches up. And as you can see, well, not really on the camera, but there's almost like an inch or 2. Well, not an inch, but as you can see, there's quite the difference in the trims on this book. So it almost, yeah, sorry. Not the best example, but I think it's the difference between the first and second prints. So I can't remember which one's which. Maybe, I think this one's the first print with the red X-Men logo. And then the white logo, I think, is the second print. Or I could have that all switched around. But they're worth the same price. So it's not a big deal if you have the first or the second. But one of them is trimmed like a whole 2 or 3 millimeters shorter than the other one. But that was kind of weird. Don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into my books. I don't know. But I saw somebody on Instagram, I think it was Tacoma Comics, a few weeks back, was wondering if his comic books have been trimmed. And I think sometimes it's just the way they do things. So, see, now I got to find the spot to put these back. All right. So, first Bishop's next, of course. So, before I will show off First Bishop, do want to get back into chat because William Bird is here. How's it going, William Bird? He says, I've been going crazy looking for a comic I bought years ago. I've touched almost every comic in my collection over the past 2 weeks and still cannot find. The same thing's happening to me now with video games. So I moved my a lot of my PS2, PS3, and Xbox collection out of this room and downstairs. And it kind of just hit me, like, as I was moving my 360 stuff. I don't know where my collection is past the letter T unless I just trade them all off. So I was looking for Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which I'm pretty sure I own somewhere, but I cannot find it in my house, and it's driving me crazy because with X-Men, and we're talking about that today, I kind of wanted to talk about Marvel vs. Capcom, but I can't find the copy of that game. I have no idea what I've done with it. And it's driving me crazy. So, and of course, I had like all the WWE games. Don't know what I've done with those. I think I've traded a lot of those, but I thought I at least kept 1 copy, like the most current 360 one. So, yeah, kind of driving me crazy. Yeah, it looks like Three Rivers Con got canceled. Yeah, I think most summer cons are dead meat, unfortunately, at this point. I hate to say it, but it's not looking good so far. So stay inside if you can. If you're not essential, sit your butt down in your recliner and get comfortable. So fortunately, I don't have that same option on most of my. I still work 5 days a week, 40 to 50 hours, but yeah, essential workforce right here. But hopefully everyone's doing all right. Is all I know. J Hood says they never always had two prints. Yeah, me. That's why once I got 281 and noticed like the trimming differences, I'm like, oh wait, there's actually header differences too. Yeah, I looked it up and apparently it is a 2-print book because that's where what they consider like. Yeah, see, a new team is born. So I think this is where they started to think about their red and gold brand, or was the blue and gold brand, sorry, between the two once they started going into the Jim Lee book and that stuff. So I guess that was like their big launch on the uncanny side. He says, I remember that logo being white, so it's probably the first. Yeah, you're probably right. After I got done talking about it, I'm like, well, the white one's probably the actual first print. And then Scott Evans says MC3 got postponed too. They're returning everybody's money, though, and he means Motor City Comic-Con. Yeah, that's a big one. That and, of course, the MegaCon in Florida. Heartbreaking to see them guys have to move forward or delay or cancel because they were hyping up some pretty big cons this year for those. So, like I said, hopefully we'll get back on our feet sooner than later and, be able to have some fun together again. Here we got First Bishop, of course, is X-Men 282. Still a very easy book to find. So if you guys are looking for some of those like mid-tier X-Men first appearances, it's like this is one of the easiest one. This may be the easiest one to find, to be honest. So I highly recommend picking up a copy of this. Make sure you get a nice clean copy too, because there's plenty out there. And then I guess some people consider this the first full appearance of Bishop, something like that. But he's on the freaking cover of 282, so I would just call 282 his first appearance. Mastodon says, me too, we make diapers, and while everybody's still pooping, I'm still working. Yeah, man, at least you're not making toilet paper. I'd hate to see what that industry's like right now. That's got to be a disaster. So, like I said, anybody who's working essentially right now, my heart goes out to you. And this is kind of where I debated drawing that line. But I do like, there's the occasional Jim Lee still like this on the run toward the later part of the 280s going into 300. But then you get into some of the Whilce Portacio work too. Like I said, if nothing else, X-Men in the 90s, we can criticize Marvel's 90s all we want, but they had some of the best artists still, like even before and after the Image launch. I know, Whilce went with them when they did that, but at least then you get like Joe Madden, the Kubert brothers working on the X-Men stuff, which I'll show off here shortly. But if nothing else, when you buy an X-Men book in the 90s, at least you're going to get some good quality art out of it. I still have these Executioner song in the bags too. So here's X-Men 294. And then here is the Charles Xavier card still in the bag. So kind of one of those runs for whatever reason. I'm just going to keep leaving it in this bag as long as I can. There's 295. And then we got Bishop and Wolverine is your card in that one. And one thing I noticed, like, because I was kind of just flipping through here, getting ready for the stream, seeing, what crazy things are in here. I swear, if there was a 90s gimmick, X-Men went through and cycled through every single 90s gimmick there was. You got bagged with trading card, chromium, holofoil, fold out. It had everything. So if you guys love your 90s gimmicks, you got to collect these runs of X-Men for sure, because they had one of everything. Then there's 299. My issue 300, I actually have in my childhood collection up in that closet there. One day, I can't remember if I showed those already. I probably have. Maybe one day I'll do that again where I just pull out, I think there's like 4 or 5 boxes up there, and those are the books I've had since I was a kid. So most of the boxes and stuff you see here, that's for me collecting 2003 on up, with the occasional, sometimes I'll pluck one out of there and get it signed and integrate it into this collection. But for some reason, I kind of just like leaving that collection separate because it's a nostalgia thing, basically. And then here's X-Men 350. Like I said, holofoil, Awesome gimmick, wraparound cover. I think it's a fold out too. So you check off a lot of gimmick boxes on this one. So I highly recommend X-Men 350 just for a lot of that 90s fun goodness. And I think, was this the Gambit trial one basically? Yeah, Gambit's greatest secret revealed. So I remember that was a big deal when I was a kid too. Here's kind of a cool one. If you guys like the trading cards and stuff, I stumbled upon this one a couple of years back in the dollar bins at Half Price Books. It's called the X-Men Ultra Collection. And it's basically just a 5-book series that has that trading card art. It's pretty cool. And then here we go. You've probably been asking yourself, like, what is the first X-Men book I ever bought? And actually, it's this book right here. And technically, I didn't buy it because it was free in Wizard Magazine. That's right. It's the Legion Quest Part 1, X-Men 320. It's got that nice gold on top and the Wizard logo on the side. So this is the very first X-Men book I ever owned because I collected Wizard from grocery stores. That's how I kind of found out. You didn't have the internet back in the day. And pretty much my main source I discovered is my news source for all comics, like a lot of other kids, was Wizard Comics. So luckily, one of the Wizards came pre-bagged with an actual comic. So you better believe I had to buy that because I didn't even know local shops existed back then. So to be able to get a comic with a comics magazine was mind-blowing to me. So I was extremely happy to get this copy of X-Men. I had just discovered the cartoon at the same time. And this, of course, led into the Age of Apocalypse, which was a great hopping on point for any reader. I remember me and my brother trying to get all those like mini-series number ones, like Weapon X and Astonishing X-Men and that type of stuff. One day, one of my collecting goals would be cool to try to get those like gold variants, kind of like the Image stuff when they launched. I finally got the Wildcats gold about a year ago. But yeah, you don't see those around too often, but I'd love to eventually collect those. Here's just a couple I picked up when I started collecting again. Here is X-Men 400. I think this was around the Joe Casey arc, which is right here as well. Didn't get too much into that arc, to be honest. Here's 446, where Claremont and Alan Davis came back to the title. Once again, some cool things happened in this run, like they brought in X-23 to the team. But like I said, my main run during this time, I only had room in my budget for one X-Men title, and you'll see those titles coming up shortly because it went from one, that one ended, it went right into the next one. So we'll talk about that shortly. I remember hearing big things about this run here. This is issue 476. This is where Ed Brubaker and Billy Tan were working on the book. So a lot of cool. I wasn't a huge, gigantic fan of this run in particular. So I think this is where you get like Vulcan, Gabriel Summers. But some of the seeds it laid for the X-Men are phenomenal coming out of this run, especially Messiah Complex, which, hey, guess what's in my hand next? Messiah Complex Chapter 10. Got the variant edition on issue 494. I love this run. If you guys want an underrated X-Men arc you don't hear too much about, except for maybe for me just from doing videos like this, Messiah Complex is kind of where I hop back into X-Men after the Morrison and the Whedon stuff. A lot of cool stuff happens in this. A lot of great writers were on X-Men at the time, too. So here you had Ed Brubaker. Trying to think of who was on regular X-Men. I can't think right now. Of course, you had Craig Kyle, Chris Yost on X-Force. And then you had Peter David on X-Factor. So a lot of great writers were involved in X-Men at the time. And don't ask me why this isn't in a bag, but I had to get this. I was a big fan of Mike Choi at the time, and he got to take over for a few issues of X-Men. And it's written by Ed Brubaker. So some solid stuff here. Not too crazy. Like it almost feels like filler between Messiah Complex and when they get to issue 500. But still, nonetheless, decent art on the inside at least. Actually, like I said, I think this is issue 497. And the full 70s X-Men for some reason. Can't remember why, but it's like they're almost stuck in like a time something. So, yeah, and then it was fun getting these. They started to change the creative team around a bit toward issue 500, which I think I showed this off on Modern Men, but there's issue 500. I'm trying to get that nice glare because it's signed by Alex Ross at the bottom, who did this phenomenal cover. But They started to bring in Matt Fraction to help co-write the book. And then you had Greg Land and Terry Dotson, both artists in the book too. So they would exchange drawing duties throughout this part of the run. So two solid artists. Always had a soft spot for Greg Land. So because he grew up in the same town as me basically. So I had to spend most of my time when I discovered the first local shop I shopped at. That lady there was obsessed with Greg Land, obviously, and his cross-gen work. Here's some annuals from the X-Men run. So I went into half-price books. Yeah, I think in May of 2018 is the date on the sticker here. And they pretty much had like all of these X-Men annuals for $1 a piece. So I just bought all of them basically. So there's annual number 6, which I think gets reprinted later because it's the Storm Dracula crossover, which, hey, look at that. It was next in the box. So this is a reprint of that same annual. And then we got annual number 7. And then annual number 8, which I think I actually ended up getting a couple copies of that. But like I said, these early annuals for $1. Why wouldn't I get them? Here's annual number 9, which I thought maybe I didn't get this one signed. Don't know why I didn't get this one signed, or maybe I have 2 copies of it somewhere. All Arthur Adams in this one. Some very cool art. Here's annual number 10, more Arthur Adams. And then you get a Longshot in there too. So I think I was talked about how much I didn't care about Longshot the other day, but hey, if you like Longshot, there you go. Oh yes, we got Joker 68s in the chat. What's going on, Kurt? How you doing today? Hopefully you're feeling all right, man. We got X-Men annual number 12. And then the other one I was shocked to find for $1 that day, X-Men annual number 14. Cameo appearance of Gambit. So this is one of those like Where's Waldo type books where you're looking for Gambit the whole time. And yeah, he's actually in there. He's just kind of hard to find, but got that signed by Arthur Adams last year at C2E2, March of 2019 right there. So cool book to have. And it looked like at the time, it's still got a couple dings on the side, but for $1, absolutely worth every penny. And then a cool Magnolia cover on X-Men annual number 15. And then there's this like random special edition they had on the same day. Got it for $1. I think it just reprints the early stuff like your Giant Size or X-Men 94, where they go to the island and what's his name? Warpath doesn't make it. We got Pizza Hut special number 1 because why wouldn't you get fast food specials for $1.50? So I got that at the other half price books, but these are always fun to get, like random fast food special books. Shout out to the great legend. Had to get the Taco Bell X-Men special. I don't know how you would acquire this if you had to get like a Burrito Supreme meal or something, or one of those crazy boxes, but I don't recall a time of Taco Bell carrying X-Men comic books, but apparently they did. So there you go. X-Men Taco Bell exclusive. So exclusive collector's item. Gotta love it. Those weird knickknacks. You never know. We still got the Mastodon in the chat. Still got Fish Tropic hanging out. William Bird says the special edition does have a little original story included. Very nice. And then, yeah, everyone loves the Pizza Hut specials. Yeah, I don't know if that was part of their, like, the Pizza Hut Book It Club. I don't know if anyone else had the Book It Club when they were growing up. But, yeah, you had, like, every time you read a book, you got, like, punch out a little thing on your button. And then you could take it to Pizza Hut and get a little personal pan pizza for free, basically. And those were the days, weren't they? Here's X-Men Regenesis number 1. Got that signed by Kieran Gillen down there by the UPC barcode. And this is pretty much like right in between X-Men Schism and where they kicked off Cyclops' Uncanny X-Men and Wolverine, the X-Men where he's the professor of the school. Fish Tropic says he would frame that copy of the Taco Bell comic. I figured you'd like that. Here's Heroes for Hope starring the X-Men. Once again, more cool Arthur Adams art there. And here's what I think I found either for $1 or 50 cents. Immediately got home and put it in one of those Mylar bags. X-Men and the new Teen Titans. So very happy to get a copy of this for cheap because this book can go either or. It can be sold very cheap or sometimes it can go on eBay for double digits for whatever reason. So if you see it for cheap in those bins, just go ahead and pick this one up. It's got some cool Walt Simonson art in there, so definitely worth having that. Sorry about that. X-Men #1 is on my wall right now. So, and my other copies, I think I gave to Comic Man Andy. And you all know what that looks like already, so I'm not too worried about showing that one off. But I do have X-Men #2. I got this one signed by Jim Lee and Chris Claremont, so I'm happy to at least have a couple books double signed by those two gentlemen, because I doubt we're ever going to get a chance to get Jim Lee's signature for free ever again. So very happy to have this double signed for free, because I don't think that'll happen ever again. And then I've just been basically filling up this whole run too, at least the first, just trying to get all the Jim Lee ones. So there's #3, and actually I think I left it up there. Yeah, there's #4 right there. There's my dollar copy I put up there on the wall. So I do have first Omega Red, and then there's #5. And J Hood, I don't know if you did the most painful covers or not on Comic Gories, but this would have probably become pretty close. Wolverine is just having a bad day on there. Like part of his arm and flesh has been ripped off there, so you can see what the adamantium looks like inside his wrist. And yeah, that's a cool cover. I don't know if I would have known to pick that until just now. Beautiful. Wait, okay, good. I do. I just want to make sure I have no gaps in this collection, because I'm pretty sure I have them all, but we'll find out if I do. Beautiful Psylocke Sabretooth cover there. Always like that cover. Very awesome. And this is one I was kind of hoping to read on Modern Men, just to see if it wanted it finished actually it finished second, because we're still voting on it this week. But I think if it doesn't win this week, I'm just going to read it on my own, because it has probably legitimately been, let's see, 25 years since oh my God, because it's probably been like mid-90s since I read this run. Wow, that makes me feel old. Then there's first Belladonna. People like this one, issue #8. And then issue #9. Nice. If there's ever one run you guys want to go after out there, if you're a new collector, I highly just recommend going after this run, because if you can find Omega Red for $1, everything else is going to be $1. So easy run to complete, in my opinion. There's #10. And then once again, I need to get on some bags and boards. #11. So I think this is pretty much like the last main one you need to complete the Jim Lee Claremont run. But yeah, beautiful cover there. And I'd like to get the second print of this at some point. I think it might have been, I can't remember if it's a second print or toy exclusive, like the one that's like all gold in the background. Be fun to get that one at some point. And then, of course, I think Art Thibert goes on to issue #12. And that's kind of where I just stopped collecting around this issue 12 and 13, just because I at least wanted to get the Jim Lee stuff completed in this part of the run. So anymore, it's just like if I see it for $1 or $2, I'd probably pick it up. What's going on? We got Highly a Comic Bro in the chat. What's going on, man? Nice to see you in the chat today. And then we're going back to Executioner Song, issue 14. Beautiful Andy Kubert cover. Of course, I kept it in the bag, so you can see that nice Apocalypse trading card on the inside there. So awesome. I think I've actually traded up to get a couple of these just in the bag. There's issue 15. Maybe one day I'll actually be able to read these, but I'm going to have to read them digitally because I don't want to open up these bags. There's issue 16. Cool Archangel card in the back. Like I said, X-Men runs, at least you're gonna get all those 90s gimmicks and some nice runs. And then, wow, I had more of this run than I thought. I guess I may as well just get 17 and 18 at some point. So I do have issue number 19. Like I said, you get some good Kubert Brothers art, if nothing else. Once you lose Jim Lee, at least you get Andy Kubert, who is, in my opinion, a very suitable replacement. I love me some Andy Kubert. And Adam Kubert's, he's pretty good too. You get him on Wolverine at the time. And where's my issue 20? Oh, did I leave it up there or did I just put it in the wrong? Oh, I got it in my... I was going to say a pile show last time. I'm like, where's issue 25? That's one of the few I actually had when I was a kid. Now, here's a... I don't know if this is a newsstand variant or what, or just like a easier to buy cover that was cheaper. But here's X-Men 36, Phalanx Covenant. It doesn't have like the shiny goodness on the side. Like I have issue 37 coming up, and you'll see what I'm talking about if you're not familiar. So once again, holofoil 90s goodness. Love those gimmicks. So I think this is the first appearance of somebody. I forget who at this time, but yeah, I think that's a first appearance book as well. And then we're going back into Legion Quest on the X-Men side. So you get issue 40 and then issue 41. Read these not too long ago just because I was into the show Legion. And one of the main things I remember you need to read for Legion is Legion Quest. So basically, Legion just messes up everything so bad it causes the Age of Apocalypse, which you get in X-Men Alpha. Oh my God. The gimmicks are strong for this one. So full-on wraparound chromium. You can obtain it for $1 if you dig deep enough. Love this run. It's a lot of fun. A lot of great nostalgia in this one. This is high on my reread pile because, once again, probably since the late 90s since I gave this the full read. But I remember collecting these. I had to get X-Men Alpha and Omega just based on these covers. So I remember just being blown away, and I thought they were very awesome. So, and then you're just like, what in the blue hell is going on? So Wolverine's got one hand. Everybody's in different costumes and stuff. So it's just one of those. This is like the ultimate book you see, especially like in the 90s. You saw this, and it's just so weird if you have no clue what's going on in Marvel. You had to pick it up. So absolutely amazing time to collect. We got John's Comics with Kids. What's going on, John? He says X-Men for life. Fish Tropic says, I was watching Legion, but then I stopped. Yeah, I need to finish that show too. The first season was really good. I had trouble getting through the second season. I haven't even touched the third season yet. So that's where I am. Well, maybe I'll pick that up again one day. But I love that first season a lot. So we got the Mastodon. He says, still waiting for you guys to do Age of X-Men on Modern Men. Yeah, I mean, with that one, it's kind of a tricky one because it's such a colossal read. I wouldn't mind like trying to do Legion Quest, X-Men Alpha, X-Men Omega maybe, just to get that read, and maybe even throw in X-Men Prime just so we can say we did it. But I don't know if we'd feasibly be able to get everyone to read all of that plus all those miniseries in like 3 or 4 days. It'd be a tough one to get in there. But maybe we'll do a special someday. That might have to work. We got Iron Spider. What's going on, man? So we got a new channel out there, Iron Spider. He's trying to get his channel off the ground. So definitely sub up Iron Spider. He says, this is a great live stream. Thank you. He says, oh, I guess maybe subscribe. So yeah, definitely if you're looking for a new channel to watch, check out Iron Spider. He's trying to grow his channel, so please give him a chance. All right, let's see what else we got here. I've got the main cover of this one, I think, somewhere. Maybe it's at my parents' house, but got one of those X-Men Deluxe editions of the Onslaught stuff. And this is the non-foil version of it. There's actually like a big foil one where that version of the Herald of Onslaught is very shiny. So once again, like I said, if you like 90s gimmicks, you have to collect X-Men. I was completely off X-Men at this point. I don't even know where I got this book, but I got issue 71. I might have a couple more from that era. Here is, I think I have like 2 or 3 copies. I think I showed this on the last stream. Here's New X-Men 115, E for Extinction Part 2, first appearance of Negasonic Teenage Warhead. And once again, this is the B cover to that arc. Phenomenal read. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go here. So here's 118. I like these Frank Quitely covers. I wasn't a big Frank Quitely fan at first, but once I started reading this run and getting into some of his other work, I really enjoy his work. He's very stylized, but in my opinion, it grows, especially in the world of X-Men, where it's supposed to be a little bit more weird, and you have some of these like crazy-looking mutants. Frank Quitely's artwork, especially on Beast, this is the one where you kind of get Cat Beast. There's only two people who can basically draw that character. In my opinion, it's Frank Quitely and John Cassaday. So there's issue 119, continuing the Morrison run. And around this point, he switches around artists quite a bit. You get Igor Kordy on the next arc. which isn't too bad. They're still kind of feuding with Cassandra Nova from issue 114. And actually, you get to see her. This is actually the first issue of Morrison's new X-Men I bought. I think I found it at a Borders when I was in college. Slowly, dipping my toe back into the world of comics. So this is an Enough Said issue. So Marvel actually had this like big gimmick going on at the time in all of their books. If it said Enough Said like that, all the writers and artists were challenged to create a comic book with no dialogue in it. So this has like, if I remember, I think there's dialogue on the very first and last page, but it's Emma and Jean going into, if I remember, I think they're going into Charles's head to figure out what's going on. Basically, Cassandra Nova is taking over Charles Xavier, and they go into his head to find out what's going on. And while they're in there, there's no dialogue. It's just them. And sometimes, like, the closest thing you get to communication is just like big cloud psychic bubbles that say words, which are minimal. So a lot of fun. Here is X-Men 125 with one of my boys, Beak. He is a lot of fun in this run. One of my favorite characters that came out of this. So when you kind of hear people talk about how they nerfed a lot of the Grant Morrison run, a lot of that has to do with the characters he created for this run. And Beak is one of them. I think he was put in Exiles and then blinked out of existence, basically. So, and then there's most of the cast and characters from this early run of New X-Men. So a lot of those characters, they don't really use too much anymore. And I don't think, a lot of Morrison fans aren't too thrilled about that. J Hood says, I wasn't a fan of Morrison's run, but you can't dispute the impact it had on the title. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of fun, in my opinion. I'm glad I got a chance to collect it as it was coming out for the most part. And it's just one of those instances, too, where, they kind of made the X-Men change their costumes because of the movie that came out in 2000. So you get to see them in black leather now instead of these big, bright, colorful costumes. So there was a 5-year window where you had the X-Men in those costumes when they decided to wear costumes, because you have Wolverine right here, for instance, on issue 123. He just basically going around shirtless for most of the run. I got that one signed by Ethan Van Sciver in 2007 Wizard World Chicago. Yeah, you get a lot of good art from Van Sciver as well. He does a lot of the cool covers on this one. So there's 124, once again signed at the same con. We got Joker 68 asking if John's been watching G.I. Joe because you tell everyone on IG. Yeah, Hasbro, I guess, dropped like the entire G.I. Joe series on their YouTube channel. So that may be what I do after the stream, because that looks like a lot of fun. So big thanks to John's Comics Kids for letting us know about that. We got New X-Men 127 signed by Bill Sienkiewicz. This was Wizard World Chicago as well, I believe. But yeah, he does a lot of cool stuff with Zorn in that one. And then here's a cool cover featuring Phantom X, issue number 129. One of the coolest characters definitely to come out of that run, Phantom X. Maybe the biggest contribution at the end of the day that Morrison actually had on the overall X universe, because a lot of his characters got nerfed, but the one that actually got kept for the most part was Phantom X. So here is issue 130. Got this one signed by Van Sciver as well. I think that's one of his cooler covers. Always just like the kind of goofy grin on Wolverine there. He's ready to just either have a beer or fight or both. So cool cover. Definitely enjoy that. Let's see. Iron Spider has a question here. He says, anybody here watch Daredevil Netflix series? In my opinion, besides Infinity War, I think it was the best thing to come out of the MCU. Seasons 1 and 3 in particular, that show, phenomenal. I thought season 1 was the best, but then season 3, I don't know. It's kind of hard to pick between the two. He says the third one's the best in his opinion. Yeah, they're both really good. But I kind of want to edge out one, but that final fight at the end of season 3 is very good as well. J Hood says the first 2 seasons, I think they lost me with Defenders. Yeah, I feel like Defenders, it was hyped up so high they weren't going to meet that bar. It was very difficult to pull that one out. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, I don't think they stuck the landing, but I I like Daredevil and Jessica Jones in that. Luke Cage was fine, but unfortunately, Iron Fist, they he did. Yeah, they should have just recasted that one. All right, here's X-Men 132, which I think this one was actually the second one I bought. Like I said, I was just buying these when I could, and then I eventually had to go back and get the whole thing once I discovered a local shop where I lived. That's why it's a newsstand copy, because I found this one at either like a Books A Million or Borders as well. And then there's issue 135, The Riot at Xavier. So this is where you start to get one of the first stories with Quentin Quire, who has become a mainstay in X-Men. So there's sorry, I covered up Murder at the Mansion. So this is the storyline where Emma Frost, she turns to diamond form and someone basically assassinates her and she just crumbles. So actually you get to see her being put back together, but it takes a while to put her back together. But in the meantime, you have Bishop and Shard. They're trying to figure out who assassinated Emma Frost as she's being put back together. So another cool storyline there. And then there's the end of Riot at Xavier's. Once again with Quentin Quire saying Magneto was right. And then, yeah, it's pretty interesting who turns out to assassinate Emma. So, yeah, there's a Murder at the Mansion Part 1, by the way. These are a little bit out of order, so I apologize for that. And then Part 2. But, yeah, cool storyline that leads up into, like, the big last hurrah of the new X-Men storyline and getting into what happens with Zorn and the Stepford Cuckoos and who they really are, basically. So, a lot of cool twists and turns that Morrison had been building up early on in this run. Like I said, some of the best Morrison is the slow burn Morrison stuff, and this is no exception here. So, and then this is where you get Chris Bacalo on the title for the Assault on Weapon Plus. So you have the ragtag team of Wolverine, Cyclops, and Phantom X on their own side story. But in my opinion, where the story gets to its finest, it's basically its crescendo, is the Planet X storyline. This is where you find out that Zorn, he's not the guy you think he is the whole time. So he's basically been playing the X-Men since his introduction. And I guess spoilers for the next cover. So you've had a long time to read it, though. But spoilers, it was Magneto the whole time. So Magneto was hiding out this whole time inside the Xavier school, waiting to make his move. So obviously, when Phantom X, Cyclops, and Wolverine are not at the school, what better time to make your move against Xavier than that? Then there's issue 4, and then it all culminates with issue 150, part 5 of the Planet X storyline. So basically, Magneto and one of the Stepford Cuckoos makes their move to just take over New York. And basically, the only two people left at that point are Phoenix and Wolverine. And Phoenix this is where they kill off Jean Grey for the longest time. She wasn't brought back until like a couple of years ago. So it was at this point, I don't remember when this was published, probably like 2004, if I remember right. She was pretty much killed off from 2004 to about 2018 until the X-Men Red story came out. So yeah, this was your last Jean Grey you get for a long time. But as much as I praise Grant Morrison, it should have ended here. This should have been the last Morrison story. The Magneto is defeated. Sucked they lost Jean, but whatever. It is what it is. She'll be back. She's the Phoenix. But it should have ended here. But unfortunately, it just kept going into this weird, really crazy Here Comes Tomorrow storyline. Which, hey, look at that. Mark Silvestre. It looks beautiful. But even for Grant Morrison, this story makes no sense. I mean, it is Grant Morrison. It is most insane. Like, they're in the future. There's multiple, like, demon night crawlers. There's an evil white beast for some reason that's not Dark Beast. Phenomenal covers. Like I said, and the art is great on the inside, but I still couldn't tell you to this day what happened in the last 4 issues of New X-Men. And then right after that last issue, Morrison's gone. He was done. So should have ended at 150, but it went on for 4 more issues. And then I think Chuck Austin or somebody took over. They should have just ended it right there. But it kept going and was called New X-Men. Shouldn't have been called New X-Men after 150. They should have just ended it right there and went on to something completely different. But yeah, they just had this last 4-issue confusing storyline. And yeah, if you're collecting the run, reading it, I suggest just 150, you're good. You can read the other 4 at your own risk. But I remember specifically reading the first time and not enjoying them. So yeah. Mastodon says classic covers on the new X-Men run. Yeah, absolutely. I love Frank Quitely's covers, probably the best. But then you get those Bacalo covers on the Weapon Plus stuff as well. It's all great. Jad says it's no more crazy or confusing that some of the Hickman stuff is doing now. Yeah, I do. That's kind of what I was thinking. If I was going to compare Hickman stuff to a previous run, I'd probably almost go new X-Men as well, because he's bringing in a lot of new ideas that aren't necessarily new, but they feel new in their context. I think the next thing that they need to do with the Hickman stuff is start building more new characters. I guess we probably don't need a lot of new X-Men since they're bringing in a lot of the old X-Men, but eventually I think they're going to have to at least make one book dedicated to some new characters. All right, let's see where we go from there. Oh, I forgot about the annual. So you want to talk 90s gimmicks, try 2000s gimmicks that, that they weren't exactly the best. They didn't last long. So here's annual 2001. So not only did they drop numbering so they could put 2000 in the title, even though it says 2001, that was another gimmick in 2000. If you're around the year 2000, you could put 2000 on anything. So we went from numbering to just new X-Men Annual 2001. And the unique thing about this annual, I think, is this and the Uncanny Annual were the first ones to go widescreen. So it was an experimental Marvel book where instead of reading it like this, you actually read it like this. And holy crap, is this extremely flimsy. Like, I'm trying to hold it up now, and it's just, like I said, I bought this one for $1 after the fact. It is spine ticked up and down. It is like, I couldn't picture these things holding up that well over time, that's for sure. But it kind of presents it's definitely unique, but I don't know how you would reprint this. Like, if they did an omnibus hardcover, which I'm sure they did, I'd be very curious to see how this was printed in that omnibus. So neat idea on paper, but I think, they only made a couple of these for a reason and never visited it since then. So just kind of a neat factoid about what they were doing at the time. Just like on those free comic book day ones at one time, they tried to print smaller comics to see if that was a feasible idea. And the fans basically no, don't. That's stupid. Don't do that. So, yes, we got the Great Legend show in the chat. What is going on, Ledge? How you doing today? He's saying hi to his friend, the Mastodon. He loves the Mastodon. We got the Mastodon saying Chuck Austin, the writer equivalent of Liefeld. I 100% agree with that, Donnie. I remember when I got back around this time of comics, pretty much you could either get the Morrison run, or I think Chuck Austin was also working on the filler issues on Uncanny. I think it was him and Joe Casey were kind of taking turns. But Chuck Austin his arcs lasted 2 issues and went nowhere every time. So it just seemed like it was really random and lazy on his writing. So I'm glad. And he did Action Comics as well. So he was ruining X-Men, and he was ruining one of my favorite characters, Superman. And they even had Superboy in there doing nothing. So Chuck Austin, I got to be honest, I'm not the world's biggest fan of his writing either. We got Fish Tropic saying, yeah, I swear it used to be a good series. Sleepwalker, Sandman, etc. Yeah, I need to read some Sandman again at some point. I got those 2 big omnibuses I still need to go through. Iron Spider's enjoying the current run on Miles Morales. That's cool, man. Legend just saying hi to everybody. So I think he's working from home as well. Or maybe he's doing his job today. He's just slipping in real quick. Chris Barrett says, my problem is with the 3 stories and 1 free comic book day book. Yeah, you really don't give one story room to breathe. It's just get as much in there and try to get them hooked on other books is typically their strategy anymore. So, yeah, I agree with most all of that. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, we go from one great run to the next. We got Astonishing X-Men. Like I says, between this and the Morrison run are my favorite X-Men runs. I kind of want to pick this one just out of sheer consistency, though. This is actually one of the few books. I'm not usually like one to try to get every cover for every book, especially nowadays when every cover has like 74 variants. But I had to have this one. I got the Del Auto variant right above my head there. That's New X-Men 1, number 1. And probably my favorite is the John Cassaday variant to his own book. You get the full team shot there. I actually had to get this one signed by John Cassaday, and you better believe I put that in that Mylar bag. So probably my favorite of the 3 covers that came out. Absolutely love this one. And then you just get a nice run of X-Men here. So I can't remember. I think it was Ricky Markstadt was asking us the other day if there's a storyline where the Danger Room becomes sentient and has like dreadlocks and stuff. That's definitely from this run. So it doesn't start the run, but it's the second arc basically. So this is issue 2. Got it signed by John Cassaday again. So in this one, they're just dealing with the company Sword, not Shield. It's Sword basically. And there's agreements with them making, I can't remember the aliens they're dealing with in this run offhand. Like I said, I haven't read it since it came out. But basically they're dealing with these aliens who also hate mutants. Not the Shi'ar, but something, it's kind of like the anti-Shi'ar basically. And Sword is working with them to come up with a cure for mutation basically. So the first arc is just them getting beat up by that. And then you get Colossus back in this run who got killed off by the Legacy virus previously. So, and all of the art, interior and exterior, is done by John Cassaday. What more could you ask for? Once again, there's a signature there. And really the real star of this series is Kitty Pryde. And just her banter with Emma Frost throughout, because she hates Emma Frost so much. It's just eventually kind of get to see him grow close together toward the very end. But yeah, just some of the character building they do between Kitty and Emma. And of course, anything that has to do with Wolverine, Cyclops, and Beast. Like, those guys are all bros at this point. Even though Cyclops and Wolverine, they always kind of like always have to pick on each other, pick fights and that stuff. A lot of good spots between them two. But fortunately, we had no Jean Grey at this point because Morrison killed her off for the whole Emma storyline with Cyclops. So, yeah. Legend says we'll be taking on the Friday show, what we can collect, what we can do during these hard times. That's this Friday on Comic Core. So, yeah, I like this. We're coming up with topics for the roundtable. Donnie says, I was hoping they were going to at least keep the online stuff going. Funkfish guy. Yeah, we got to stay away from the negatives and accentuate the positives sometimes. So, yeah, Legends work on putting the stuff in Mylar too. Yeah, I actually placed an order from E. Gerber late last week, so we'll see if I get that shipped anytime soon. So, looking forward. That's why I haven't really done any rebagging live streams, because that first one I did, I ended up blowing through like almost every bag and board I had. So, Mastodon says he's reorganizing the collection. J Hood says, and Colossus' return was explained so well, but I still love that run too. Yeah, they kind of just like, he's back. Here you go. So, but nonetheless, it's still good to have him back. It's like he kind of never died. I guess like the aliens took him, they stopped his heart, and they kept him or something like that. Then eventually when the X-Men are fighting, who finds him but Kitty Pryde? And then Kitty Pryde's like, hey, didn't I spread your ashes? And he's just like, thank you. So instead of like, those weren't my ashes, he just thanks her for thinking about him. So I thought that was a kind of a touching moment between those two. And then, of course, we'll just look at the whole run. At this point, of course, back. No, I think I got it in that spot there. That's what sucks. I was going to sort those other books in, but we'll just save those for the end because they're some of my favorites in the whole collection. Yeah, 11 and 12. Most of you guys probably know what this looks like at this point. And if you're looking for a run to collect, just like the Jim Lee X-Men, almost all of these you can find for $1 or less as well. So it's definitely one of those runs. It's a solid read, and I recommend it. Now, here's a good storyline as well, where basically they're having to fight a new version of the Hellfire Club, which they bring back Sebastian Shaw, but they also get Cassandra Nova involved in there too again. So bringing it back to the Morrison New X-Men stuff. So I got issue 16, one of my favorite covers, so I had to get that one signed by Cassaday. Mastodon says he needs that Mylar. Thank you for the shout-out, Legend. Iron Spider says I have another channel called King of Comics. Just started. We have some comics that you can read on it. All Marvel so far. Some Gameverse, Spider-Man, and Captain Marvel, all newer. So once again, if you're looking for a newer channel, sub up, check out Iron Spider. He's an up-and-comer in the community. Issue 18, signed by John Cassaday. And this is where they actually start the storyline of going to that other planet and trying to solve what's going on over there so they stop getting attacked. But basically, the story eventually ends up with they're wanting to fire a giant bullet at Earth, basically. So they're like, what? Were they going to launch a missile or something? It's literally a giant bullet, but they fire at Earth. And what happens is there's a giant bullet, and the only way to stop it is Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde's the only X-Men left standing that can stop this bullet. And she's trying to figure out how, because she's trapped inside it. It's going toward Earth, and she's trying to figure out, like, what can I do? I'm just Kitty Pryde. And what she does is one of the more touching whole things in this run. The only person, if I remember right, that has comms with Kitty Pryde while she's in there is, like, her kind of mortal enemy at this point, Emma Frost. So that's when you kind of see them come together, and Emma's like really nice to her, and they're actually respecting each other for the first time. But she ends up using her phasing ability to phase the giant bullet through Earth, but unfortunately it launches it away from Earth with Kitty Pryde trapped in it. So they lose Kitty Pryde in this issue, basically, and she's not brought back for several years. And that's probably the point I kind of just stopped reading X-Men again. I figured with that story ending, it was a good enough time to just take a break until I got back on at the Messiah Complex part of it. So, yeah, it's got some random things I need to individually bag and board. Just a Wizard World Boston exclusive. So this is just some free book I got at a con. That was the thing about those Wizard ones. Like, if you go to one Wizard, the next Wizard Days give you the previous ones for free. We got issue 200. I think I got this one signed by Humberto Ramos and David Finch right down there. So very nice on that. We got issue 204. For some reason, I thought I had that signed. I guess not. Let's say I must have met Mike Troy before he did all of his X-Men work. Legend. He's been waiting to make that pun for so long, he finally just typed it. COVID-19 has nothing on Seawood 19. So thank you for finally typing that, Legend. I figured you were going to want to use that one for a while. Mastodon says, didn't realize how long you'd be on. I was going to hop on, missed my window. Yeah, I just got the half of this box. I'll probably start signing off. I didn't realize I was going to be on this long either. I have stuff to do today, but here I am still rambling on. Joker says, don't take my pain meds. I'll call you this week. Yeah, for sure, man. We'll definitely, hopefully your package arrived well from C2E2. And yeah, we'll definitely talk this week, Joker. Once again, hope you're doing well, man. Everybody send well wishes to Joker. He's still fighting a good fight out there. And then Legends talking to Joker. And then Mastodon says later to Joker. Here's a decent run, The Age of X. It's kind of like they wanted to revisit an Age of Apocalypse style storyline. So I just came up with Age of X. It's another alternate reality X-Men, as you can tell by Cyclops there and that stuff. Nothing too crazy special, but it's still a solid read if you're bored. And it's signed and thumb printed by Clay Mann, who couldn't keep his thumb off his own signature. So thank you, Clay Mann. X-Men Legacy 275. Only reason I had this, just thought it was a cool Mark Brooks cover. At this point, pretty much Rogue had just taken over the title at that point. So I haven't read too much of the X-Men Legacy besides some of the Age of X stuff. But it seemed like an interesting concept at the time. One day I'll have to sit down and read that. Here is cover 6, I guess, for X-Men #1 from the Victor Gischler run. I believe this is the vampire stuff where you get to see Jubilee turn into a vampire, and just a cool, I think this is a Jim Chung variant cover. Or no, it's Olivier Coipel. My bad. So cool Koi Pell variant cover. I always get kind of those two guys' art styles mixed up. They're very similar. And we got some of the Brian Wood stuff. It's like an all-female X-Men team, basically. So get some cool Terry Dodson covers out of it. And actually, you guys know me. I had to get some J. Scott Campbell. I think I got this one for $1 off Midtown's site on some big sale they had. But yeah, phenomenal J. Scott Campbell work there. I'm always a mark for that guy, I know. But hey, if I see those J. Scott Midtown covers for cheap, I'll get them every time. And here is the A cover. Luckily, I did not pay $6 for that. I paid like $1. But I actually think I have the print of this from Koi Pell. It's in that closet there because I had no wall space. So it's hanging up next to the collection that's in there. Yes, we got Count Von Strange in the chat. What is going on, Count? Nice to see you out today. I don't even remember why I own these. I think I just got back into a local shop when I moved locations, and I was just kind of checking out some of the X-Men books at the time. So I got Astonishing 48 and then Generation Hope number 9. So must have not been too remarkable. I kind of want to read this Generation Hope, though, because it does have the team of Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, which they always do phenomenal work together. So I'll have to read that at some point. And then I got this for obvious reasons. This is a variant for the latest run of Astonishing X-Men issue 7, except it had that awesome Cassaday cover. But unfortunately, Marvel doesn't know how to do lenticulars. So, yeah, trying to sync them up, but it's impossible. So, yep, kind of sucks, but still like that cover, though. Got some Schism action, so a good mini-series, the lead-in to the 2 books where Cyclops was leader of the X-Men and Wolverine was the head of the school of newer X-Men. So, highly recommend X-Men Schism. And I don't know why that Black Widow's there, but there you go. I think I was probably getting this signed by the artist and just never did. Daniel Acuna did both of those. So that's probably happened. I just put them in the same bag and board so I get them signed and never met them at a con. So that happens to me more often than not. I'll put something in a bag and board, take it, and then I just run out of time and it doesn't happen. Don't know why this is placed where it's at in the box, but here we go. Here's one from my childhood. The Marvel Universe versus Onslaught. Got this one signed by Adam Kubert at the bottom. Like I said, another one of my first favorite storylines from X-Men. I think up on, did I leave it on the wall? Maybe I put it up. Oh, it's probably in that stack again. But anyway, one of the first stories I ever bought of X-Men. The X-Men could not fight Onslaught on their own. They had to recruit the entire Marvel Universe to help fight them. And it ends up costing them about half the Marvel Universe because they got sucked into the Heroes Reborn story that almost no one liked. So if you're interested in how Heroes Reborn came about and the history of things, this is the book to lead you into all of that. So a lot of fun when I was a kid. I'm going to leave that out so I can flip through it after the stream. I do have a copy of X-Men Prime on me. This is awesome. So I saw it 90s gimmicks earlier. I don't even know how to classify this one. I talked about holofoil, chromium. I don't know what see-through plastic cover is technically called, but yeah, like I said, another one to check off your 90s X-Men gimmick list. And wraparound, of course. So, gotta love it, man. I gotta put that, man, I need to rebag and board that one bad. Probably has been bagged and boarded since 90s. So, if you can't see, yeah, look at that. That's terrible. We got some, actually, here's another underrated storyline in the world of X-Men. Battle of the Atom. So you kind of get the X-Men from the past when Beast brought them back. So you have the original 5, the current incarnation of the X-Men team. There's a random Age of X dropped in there. Don't know why it's there. Actually, hey, look, another random one, Age of X Alpha. So, like I said, they're really trying hard to emulate the Age of Apocalypse in that one. But going back to Battle of the Atom, because, hey, signed by Arthur Adams, by the way. You had the team from the past, the present team, and then you had this like rogue team from the future show up out of the blue, and they're kind of just bad news, but you get some cool versions of those characters. Like you have this like really jacked up mutated version of Beast, a random older version of Jean Grey that comes out of nowhere, a female version of Zorn, and I think even a grown-up old version of Miss Marvel pops up in this. And then there's that other weird character. I think he's on a cover. It's like the kid of Mystique and Wolverine. So has like blue fur and claws. So yeah, that happened. So like I said, another interesting idea that came out of this. There is the variant signed by Chris Anka. And as you can see, you kind of get that Jean and Cyclops reunion in the middle of all the mayhem. So they definitely had to have an issue dedicated to that. And I think Jay had put it perfectly. Okay, it's not highlighting it. But he says that was a cool idea that kind of died on the vine. I don't disagree with that. Still a decent read, though. It's one of those rainy day reads. I don't recommend it full-heartedly, but if you're looking for some X-Men that you don't hear about too often anymore, you may as well just go ahead and read Battle of the Atom. It's not too bad. I had to get the Campbell cover on X-Men Gold number 30, where there's like the fake marriage between Kitty and Colossus, which was very annoying to me, especially since I was an astonishing X-Men fan. You could see a lot of good Kitty and Colossus there. They pulled they decided not to get married. I can't remember if it was Kitty. It was probably Kitty who